Nobody of my family came to my wedding while my so-called best friend betrayed me for my sister's event. I took Grandpa's estate and let karma expose them. Quick background about me, since context absolutely matters for understanding what comes next. I'm Alex, 32 now, but this nuclear explosion happened when I was 29. I'm a construction project manager who clawed my way up from absolutely nothing through pure determination and backbreaking work. I grew up in a solidly middle-class household where my parents constantly preached about working hard and earning everything you get through honest effort. I went to trade school instead of college, started as a basic laborer making minimum wage, and worked my way through every single position imaginable: electrical work, plumbing, general contracting, site supervision, quality control. My sister Jessica is 2 years younger and has literally never worked a legitimate day in her entire privileged life. She figured out early that being conventionally attractive and knowing exactly how to manipulate people emotionally gets you much further than actual effort, talent, or developing any real skills. She's been bouncing between wealthy boyfriends since high school, always hunting relentlessly for the next financial upgrade and bigger bank account. My parents absolutely loved this pattern because she consistently brought home guys with impressive salaries and prestigious job titles that made them look good socially. I've been with my wife Sarah since we met in a community college evening class 7 years ago. She's a registered nurse who genuinely cares about helping people and works incredibly hard for everything she has earned. We both sacrificed and struggled for years to build what we have today through careful planning and discipline. No handouts, no trust funds, no wealthy relatives writing checks, just pure determination, honest work, and smart financial decisions. This is the detailed story of how my entire family chose my sister's superficial nonsense over my wedding day, and exactly how I made them regret that decision in ways they never imagined possible. 2 years ago, I was deep in planning my wedding to Sarah. We'd been engaged for 8 months and managed to save up $18,000 for a really nice ceremony through careful budgeting and working extra hours. Nothing extravagant or over the top, but we wanted our special day to be memorable and meaningful for everyone involved. We sent detailed save the dates back in January for our September 15th wedding date. Jessica had been dating this investment banker named Tyler for roughly 6 months. At that point, this guy represented everything my parents had ever fantasized about their daughter bringing home: MBA from a prestigious university, drives an expensive BMW that cost more than most people's annual salary, works at a major financial firm downtown, pulling in well over $200,000 annually plus substantial bonuses. Jessica was already posting incredibly cringe-worthy Instagram photos of them at fancy restaurants with captions like, "When he treats you like the queen, you deserve to be," accompanied by crown and diamond emojis and hashtags about living her best life. Here's what you absolutely need to understand about Jessica's position in our family dynamics. She has always been the undisputed golden child, but not in any subtle or understated way. Complete princess treatment from the moment she was born until now. When I graduated from trade school with honors and landed my first real project management position, my parents said, "That's nice, honey," and immediately changed the subject. When Jessica graduated with her communications degree after changing majors 3 times, they threw an elaborate graduation party and spent months bragging to everyone they knew about their incredibly accomplished daughter. She's also completely lacking in genuine intelligence, but somehow convinced herself a master manipulator playing everyone around her like puppets. The type of person who genuinely believes she's playing sophisticated mental chess when she's really just moving checkers around the board without any coherent strategy whatsoever. In July, exactly 2 months before my carefully planned wedding, Jessica announced with great fanfare that Tyler had proposed to her during some elaborate rooftop dinner that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Absolutely shocking development, right? But here's where the situation became completely insane, and my blood pressure started rising. She immediately started planning a massive, over-the-top engagement party and deliberately picked September 15th as the date, the exact same day as my wedding that had been planned, announced, and saved for over 8 months. When I confronted her directly about this obvious and deliberate conflict, she just casually shrugged and said, "Oh, I didn't even realize there was a problem with that date. Tyler's parents are flying in from the West Coast, and it's literally the only weekend that works for everyone who actually matters in our lives." Everyone who actually matters. Just let that phrase sink in and think about what she was really saying. My mom immediately started with her typical, "Can't you guys somehow work this out between yourselves?" routine. Like I should seriously consider rescheduling my wedding that we'd been meticulously planning and saving for just because Princess Jessica suddenly needed that specific date for her engagement party. It's just an engagement party, I explained as patiently as possible. Those can happen literally any time throughout the year. Weddings are supposed to be once-in-a-lifetime events that families plan around. Jessica actually rolled her eyes at me like I was being completely unreasonable and dramatic. Alex, you're being way too emotional about this. It's not just some random party we're throwing together. Tyler's father is a senior partner at his firm, and all their most important clients will be attending. This could be absolutely huge for Tyler's career advancement and our future together. Your wedding is just family members and some friends from school. Just family members and friends from school. My wedding was dismissed as exactly that in her selfish mind. Absolute worst part? My parents immediately started nodding along enthusiastically like she was making perfect logical sense instead of being completely selfish. 6 weeks before my wedding date, I started receiving strange, evasive responses from various family members instead of the enthusiastic confirmations I'd expected. Instead of simply confirming their attendance like normal people do for family weddings, everyone kept saying vague things like, "We'll see how everything develops," or "We're still trying to figure out our schedule situation," which made absolutely no sense. My best man, Jake, who I've known since middle school and considered my closest friend, called me one evening and said he needed to discuss something really important. His tone was weird and uncomfortable. Turns out Jessica had been texting him behind my back for weeks, trying to convince him that I was being completely unreasonable and selfish about the date conflict, and that, as my closest friend, he should help persuade me to be more flexible and understanding. She literally attempted to turn my own best man against me during my wedding planning. The absolute breaking point came when my dad called me one evening and said, "Look, son, your sister's engagement party is genuinely important for her future prospects and financial security. Maybe you and Sarah could consider moving your wedding back a few months. You're both already established and stable in your careers." I completely lost my composure. "Dad, are you actually seriously asking me to postpone my wedding so Jessica can have her engagement party on the same day?" "It's not just some random party, Alex. This is fundamentally about Jessica's future financial security and social standing. Tyler comes from an excellent family with business connections that could set them up for life financially. What about my life, Dad? What about my future and what matters to me and Sarah?" There was a long, uncomfortable pause. Then he said, "You're already doing well for yourself, son. You have your career established. You're financially stable and independent. Jessica needs this opportunity much more than you need some big wedding ceremony." That was the exact moment I realized I was completely and utterly screwed in this family dynamic. In their twisted minds, my sister's shameless social climbing was infinitely more valuable than my marriage to the woman I loved. 3 weeks before my wedding, all the please reply responses came back. My parents, Jessica, both sets of grandparents, my uncles and aunts, basically every single member of my extended family had formally declined my wedding invitation with polite excuses. They were all planning to attend Jessica's engagement party instead of my wedding. Even Jake, my supposed best man and closest friend since childhood, called me 2 days before the wedding to bail at the last minute. "I'm really sorry, man, but Jessica makes some valid points. This could be genuinely important for their future together financially, and your wedding will still be meaningful and special with Sarah's family there to support you." My wedding day ended up being simultaneously the best and worst day of my entire life up to that point. Sarah looked stunning and radiant in her dress. Her family was incredibly welcoming and supportive. Our real friends who showed up made it genuinely special despite everything, but there was a massive, gaping, empty section where my supposedly loving family should have been sitting and celebrating with us. Sarah's father even graciously offered to walk me down the aisle since my own father had chosen an engagement party over his son's wedding day. When he whispered, "I'm truly honored to call you my son," right before we reached the altar, I almost broke down emotionally in front of everyone. During the reception, I kept obsessively checking my phone like an emotional masochist. Jessica had been posting continuous Instagram stories from her party, elaborate ice sculptures, gourmet catering, live musical entertainment, professional photography, the works. She even posted a video of Tyler giving a heartfelt speech about how incredibly blessed he was to be joining such a wonderful, loving family. My family. The exact same family that couldn't be bothered to attend their son's wedding because they had something better to do. 3 months after my wedding, my grandfather on my mother's side unexpectedly passed away in his sleep. He was 89 and had been declining for months, so the death itself wasn't surprising. What shocked everyone and caused major family drama was the reading of his will. It turned out my grandfather had been paying much closer attention to our family dynamics than anyone ever realized. He left me his entire house, a gorgeous 4-bedroom craftsman-style home in one of the most desirable neighborhoods in town, professionally appraised at $485,000. He also left me his completely restored vintage car collection, 3 classic Mustangs he'd personally worked on for decades, plus an $85,000 life insurance policy I had no idea existed. To Jessica, he left his personal book collection and a $2,500 government savings bond that had been sitting untouched for years. The family attorney read this out loud with everyone present. I watched Jessica's face transform from smug confidence to complete shock to absolute rage in seconds. Her mouth literally fell open. "That's completely impossible," she declared. "Grandpa always told me I was his favorite granddaughter and that he was saving something special for me." The attorney looked at his papers without emotion. Mr. Patterson was extremely clear and specific about his final wishes. He actually revised this will quite recently before his passing. Later, I discovered through my cousin Amy that Grandpa had updated everything exactly 2 weeks after my wedding. The wise old man had been keeping score of who showed up when it truly mattered. My parents were livid and kept muttering about unfairness, but there wasn't a thing they could legally do. Suddenly, at 30 years old, I was married to an amazing woman, living in a $485,000 house I owned free and clear, with 3 valuable classic cars and substantial cash in the bank. Instead of just sitting on the inheritance, I used it as a foundation to build something bigger. I sold 1 Mustang for $38,000, combined it with the insurance money, and made down payments on 2 rental properties right before the market exploded. I started my own construction consulting business on weekends and evenings. Having a paid-off house let me undercut bigger firms while still making healthy margins. Within 18 months, the business earned more than my day job. I quit the company on good terms and went full-time. By the end of year 2, I was clearing approximately $195,000 annually and owned 4 rental properties, generating steady passive income. Sarah and I were living our dream life, traveling, hosting parties, talking about starting a family. Meanwhile, my biological family had written me off as the ungrateful son who got lucky with an inheritance he didn't deserve. What they didn't know was that I was meticulously documenting everything, every snide comment, every gathering I wasn't invited to, every social media post where Jessica bragged about her lifestyle while taking shots at me, because Jessica's engagement to Tyler was starting to show serious cracks. Tyler had assumed he was getting a low-maintenance trophy wife. Jessica, however, was high-maintenance to an extreme degree. She quit her part-time job and expected him to fund $600 dinners multiple times a week, shopping sprees, an $85,000 Mercedes SUV for her birthday that she insisted was practical. Tyler made good money, but she was burning through it faster than he could earn it, and unlike her previous trust fund boyfriends, he actually had to work for every dollar. My cousin Amy, the only family member still speaking to me, kept me updated on how Jessica was draining Tyler's savings and how my parents were getting worried their golden goose was wearing out. By the time I turned 31, my business was crushing it. I'd expanded into 3 regional markets, employed 12 people I treated well, and was on track to clear $320,000 that year. Sarah and I bought a lake house with cash and were planning kids. Jessica's fairy tale, meanwhile, was falling apart. Tyler started working longer hours and traveling more. Jessica thought it was dedication. In reality, he was avoiding her. She had become insufferable, badgering him constantly about money and planning a wedding with no budget, $55,000 venue, $9,500 dress, $28,000 European honeymoon. Tyler's parents were seeing through her act. The breaking point came at Christmas dinner, which I naturally wasn't invited to. Amy secretly recorded it. When Tyler's mother innocently asked what Jessica did professionally these days, dead silence. Jessica laughed it off. "I'm between opportunities while I focus on our relationship. Tyler and I decided it's better if I plan our life together instead of being distracted by some meaningless job." Tyler's face in the video was priceless. That was the moment he realized his fiancée had just admitted to his parents she was a professional gold digger. That was also when I knew it was time to execute the plan I'd been preparing for months. Jessica's wedding was scheduled for June 12th, exactly 2 years after mine, and was set to be a $130,000 extravaganza funded by Tyler and his increasingly concerned family. Through my network, I'd become friends with a forensic accountant. I casually mentioned my sister's spending. He laughed and said she sounded exactly like the type who would drain someone dry and disappear. That sparked the idea. I built a detailed spreadsheet from Jessica's own social media bragging, 20 months of living at roughly $9,200 per month entirely on Tyler's dime. I also tracked Tyler's career. His firm was struggling, layoffs were coming, the big promotion Jessica bragged about was never happening. 2 months before their wedding, I made my moves. First, I contacted Tyler's father through legitimate business channels, planting concern about the firm's stability. He took the bait immediately. Second, a contact inside the company confirmed Tyler was on thin ice and likely gone by summer. 3 weeks before the wedding, the storm hit. Tyler's entire division was eliminated. His $210,000 salary vanished overnight. He'd been hiding it, putting wedding expenses on credit cards, hoping to land something new. That was my moment. Using an anonymous email, I sent Tyler's father my full report, screenshots, spending analysis, everything, showing Jessica had burned through roughly $165,000 a year of Tyler's money. I signed it as a concerned business associate. Tyler's father forwarded it to Tyler with an urgent demand for a family meeting. The final confrontation happened at what was supposed to be their last vendor meeting. Tyler showed up with both parents, laid out $52,000 in credit card debt, and said, "We need to postpone the wedding indefinitely." Jessica lost her mind, screaming that everything was already paid for. It wasn't, accusing his parents of sabotage. Then Tyler dropped the bomb. "Jessica, I lost my job a month ago. We can't afford any of this." Her response? "Well, then get another job immediately. This is my special day." Tyler and his parents walked out. The wedding planner packed up and left. $130,000 wedding gone. Aftermath? Jessica moved back in with my parents. Venue kept the $18,000 deposit. Caterer kept $9,500. She was stuck with a $9,500 dress she'd never wear and $35,000 in non-refundable deposits. Tyler's parents sent a legal demand letter for $78,000 they'd already put in. Tyler kicked her out, changed the locks, and started dating a financial planner. Then the desperate calls to me began. Mom, guilt-tripping about family support. Dad, family is family, maybe loan her some money. Jessica, hysterical tears and apologies. I answered Jessica's call because I wanted to hear her beg. She tried the "that's all in the past" routine. I cut her off. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to get a real job. You're going to pay back every dollar you owe. And you're going to do it without a cent from me." She played the baby sister card. I reminded her exactly why Grandpa left me everything and her nothing. Long silence. More pleading. I told her to get a retail job, move into an apartment she paid for herself, and maybe in a few years, if she proved she could act like an adult, we could talk. Then I hung up feeling better than I had in years. That was 10 months ago. Current scorecard. Jessica now works at a department store for $13 an hour folding clothes, lives in a tiny one-bedroom with a roommate, drives a 2010 Honda Civic, and posts generic inspirational quotes nobody engages with. She's been on 4 dates in 10 months, all with guys who can't fund her old lifestyle. Tyler landed a $140,000 job, got engaged to the financial planner, and is paying for a modest wedding himself. My parents reach out only when they need financial advice. Jake sent a long apology text. I deleted his number. Sarah and I just bought a second vacation property in Costa Rica, are trying for our first child next year, and my business is projected to clear $425,000 this year. I never gave Jessica a single penny, not when Tyler's parents sued, and she settled for $40,000 over 5 years, not when she got evicted, not when she crashed her car. Every time my parents say family helps family, I remind them family shows up to weddings. The absolute best part happened last month. Sarah and I attended a friend's wedding downtown. Guess who was on the catering staff in a black polo and slacks, hair in a regulation ponytail, carrying appetizer trays? Jessica didn't see me. I saw her clearly, serving guests on someone else's perfect day for minimum wage plus tips. Sometimes the most satisfying revenge isn't destroying someone's life yourself. Sometimes it's just stepping back, letting them destroy their own, and building something incredible while you watch from a distance. In the middle of a random Tuesday, when the office is quiet and the lake outside my window is perfectly still, the weight of it all hits me again. Not the triumphant part. Those moments are easy to carry. I mean the part that still feels like a bruise under the skin nobody else can see. I was 29 years old on my wedding day, standing in a suit ID paid for with overtime hours, staring at an ocean of empty chairs where my parents, my sister, my grandparents, my aunts, uncles, and the friend I'd known since we were 12 were supposed to be. In that moment, I understood something irreversible. Love, for them, had always been conditional. My achievements were nice, my work ethic was admirable, my existence was negotiable. Jessica's ability to land a rich boyfriend, however, was apparently the family's crowning achievement, worth sacrificing their own son's once-in-a-lifetime day for. People love the revenge arc. They want the dramatic montage of Jessica folding clothes for $13 an hour while I sign contracts worth $500,000. And yes, there is a dark, vicious satisfaction in knowing that every consequence she's choking on now was built brick by brick from the choices she made when she thought she was untouchable. But the part nobody talks about, the part that still wakes me up at 3 a.m., is how deeply it hurt to be proven right about how little I mattered to them. I spent my entire childhood and young adulthood trying to earn something that was never on offer. Every promotion I fought for, every night I studied building codes and blueprints under a cheap desk lamp while they bragged about Jessica's new designer purse. Every time I swallowed the hurt when they dismissed my life as practical or safe. I was a kid swinging at a piñata that was already empty. The moment they all chose her engagement party over my wedding, the piñata finally fell and shattered, and there was nothing inside but the echo of my own wasted hope. I mourned them while they were still alive. That's the strangest grief there is. Grieving people who are breathing, posting vacation photos, calling you selfish for finally walking away. I cried in my truck after hanging up on my dad's voicemail asking me to help Jessica get on her feet. I cried in the shower after seeing the family Christmas photo I wasn't invited to. I cried the day Grandpa's will was read and realized the only person who had ever truly seen me was now gone forever. I cried when Sarah's dad walked me down the aisle and whispered, "I'm proud to call you my son," because no one carrying my last name had ever said anything close to that. But here's what surviving that kind of betrayal does. It teaches you exactly how strong you are when collapsing is no longer an option. I took the house Grandpa left me, the one they all whispered I didn't deserve, and I turned it into a life so full that their absence barely registers most days. I married a woman whose family embraced me like I'd always belonged. I built a company that employs people I respect and who respect me back. I learned that chosen family cheers louder, hugs tighter, and shows up, always without keeping score. Do I still get angry? Of course. Some wounds scab over but never really disappear. They just stop bleeding on everything you touch. Do I miss them sometimes? Stupidly, painfully, yes. Not the versions who chose Instagram likes over their son's vows, but the ghosts of who they were before entitlement swallowed them whole. The dad who taught me how to swing a hammer straight. The mom who used to read me bedtime stories. The little sister who once followed me everywhere like I hung the moon. I used to think forgiveness meant letting them back in. Now I think forgiveness is what I give myself on the days the hurt flares up. Permission to feel it fully and still get out of bed, kiss my wife, answer emails, and keep building. The real revenge isn't Jessica's catering uniform or my parents' retirement worries or the silence I return their calls with. The real revenge is that I still know how to love fiercely, trust deeply, and celebrate every single person who chooses me back without making me audition for the privilege. I won the moment I stopped needing them to be proud of me and started being proud of myself instead. Everything after that, every property, every record-breaking year, every sunrise on the lake with Sarah's head on my shoulder, every time a new employee tells me this is the best job they've ever had, has just been proof that when people show you who they are, believe them the first time, and then go build a life so beautiful they have to squint to look at it. Some debts can't be paid in money. Some lessons can only be taught by distance. And some victories are so quiet they sound exactly like peace. Like laughter in a house that was paid for with my own hands, like the sound of Sarah humming in the kitchen while she makes coffee, like the knowledge that our children, when they come, will never have to beg for a seat at anyone's table. That's where I live now, and no one can take that away. Not ever again.